listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
All right. It says that we're going now. Took a little bit there to get it breathing, but hello, and welcome this fine Saturday evening to the, I guess this is the Mile High Insiders. I keep getting all my shows mixed up because we're having a little bit of switcheroos with the who's joining me today, but I've been here Tuesday and Saturday, so welcome in, Mile High Insiders. I'm Nick Kendell, joined by Bawana Beast. Bawana, how you doing today? John K, whatever the heck you want to go by. You go by many names. I think most importantly, friend, I appreciate you for coming on today to fill in for Luke. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Really excited to get, tomorrow for football and then Monday. Really excited for that game. I know a lot of people have different feelings in terms of the time, but it works for me, so I'm excited about that. Not sure if it works for you, but no, not working. But still, I'm having a good time, and that's how I'm doing. What about yourself, though?
I'm a little bit bummed about the game being switched. I had it all planned out to go watch it tomorrow. However, now that opened up my Sunday, so I'm going to be going out on a hike, even though it might be snowy. But I think the game will be 2:00 kickoff for me on Monday, so that really does not work for me.
Oh, yeah.
I will be smack dab in the middle of the workday, but I'm sure that's going to affect many people. It's going to be 3:00 in God's country, Mountain Time. So, it's a bummer, and also I feel like it's a bummer that, the Broncos have spoken out about it as well. Given it does give a somewhat competitive advantage to the Patriots and also makes the Broncos next matchup against the Dolphins that much harder. But so we're going to get into that, guys. It's obviously a Broncos-Patriots week. It's not the same quality that we had during the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning years. But, there's still a rivalry there. So let's get into it. But today's episode is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for sports fans everywhere. They have sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers, and they're not a third-party provider of odds. They have reduced juice and the best prices. There's hassle-free bonuses with a one-time rollover, which means the bonus money is yours after you bet it just one time. Other sites range from 5 to 30 times, so really much better at sportsbetting.com. They also have a 24/7 live customer support, which is always ready for a real person to answer your questions. Here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $500. That's not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover you 100% of the difference up to a $500 with a one-time rollover. So head on over to sports betting at www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. And that's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $500. $500. Also, guys, make sure you find me on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Also find John on Twitter at Jon K MHH. Also on Twitter, follow us at Mile High Huddle and at MHI_football pod. Guys, also like, subscribe, and share. That can help us so much. Go to Facebook, leave a like, click those little thumbs up, as we like to say, and go to iTunes, leave a rating, leave a comment. We really do appreciate you.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Guys, everybody wants to find a way to make a difference and make an impact in the world. A lot of times people get too caught up with our lives. Things are happening. We got jobs, we got families, we got school, we got things going on. We don't always have the means to get around to doing that. But here's what's cool about Coors Seltzer. You can actually make a difference by just enjoying a great drink. And here's how it works. Coors Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program. By simply cracking open a can of Coors Seltzer, you're volunteering. Because our waterways, let's face it, they're at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up. Through a partnership, though, with Change the Course, Coors Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Here's how that works. Each 12-pack of Coors Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers and the communities that depend on them. The way it shakes out, 1 billion gallons of water get restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., and that's just year one. Here's what's great, though, about Coors Seltzer itself. Not only are you making a difference in the world simply by purchasing Coors Seltzer, but you also get to enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. I particularly like the black cherry, and the specs are in. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV, and it's only 90 calories.
As someone who covers the NFL and a giant football fan, there's nothing I like more than kicking back on a Sunday morning, getting my spread, getting my food, getting my drinks, putting on a full slate of NFL action, and kicking back with a Coors Seltzer. Whether it's a black cherry, a mango, lemon, lime, Chad, I live for football and kicking back with my Coors Seltzer each and every single game week.
Amen. So join the world's easiest volunteer program, gang, by simply drinking Coors Seltzer. You can volunteer to restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. Guys, it's that simple. Who would have guessed saving the world could be that easy? Visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
And before we get going on the topic again, I always like to give a little bit of a just kind of an ode to the chat here, because you guys are really what makes it happen here. We have the Welcome to the Charlie Beagle podcast. Charlie, if, we're about it. I really like your dog is always super cute. He's not as cute as my Summit, but, what can you – we got Gary Jacobson coming in, Kenneth Booker saying, what's up, Nick? That's good Broncos reference, one of your articles on their show. Hey, that's awesome to hear. It's always good to have the love be spread. We got Greg Smith coming in. Pabby, how you doing, Pabby? How y'all doing? I am doing well. John, you seem like you're doing pretty well.
I am. And
are you feeling better?
Well, yeah, I'm feeling great. I just want to say real quick to Stu, happy birthday. It's his birthday. And, he's a superstar on Mount Rushmore. I think everyone just give him a good happy birthday. We always appreciate, we always appreciate Stu in the community. And yeah, so what do you want to talk about here first? Do you want to dive into the running back situation that you were talking about a little bit earlier that we were speaking about?
I want to get to the super chats. I don't want these guys to disappear. So we already got super chats coming in. The first one I see here is Dank Buds and Black Metal and Buana. I'll leave it to you to kind of run it there because I'm not quiet. I am very loud, as at least my wife would say. But we got Dank Buds and Black Metal. Still love the name. First time I've had a chance to get in here and show some love, but I'm here now, fam. Let's go, boys. All right. Thank you so much, Dank Buds and Black Metal. We appreciate the heck out of you. I saw there was a few more super chats there. Yeah. Buana, if you'd pull those guys up. Oh, we got Stu just coming in.
Yeah, as he always does, just giving us a nice little pick-me-up, and I always enjoy seeing Stu in here.
What a nice guy. This is just a little personal story here. This reminds me, it was my buddy's 22nd birthday. We were all hanging out, and we didn't even know it was his birthday, and it turned midnight, and he's like, guys, I just turned 22, and he opens up his bag and pulls out a bottle of Grey Goose. So that's what Stu just did here. He bestowed upon us on his own birthday, so what a guy. We love you, Stu.
Yeah, and, this is what I tried, Mudungus. I'm sorry. I at least gave you the neck beard that you wanted. We've been talking about this, how when I came on the last time, I went clean shaven. I told him I had this great neck beard. And so I'm sorry about that, but you still do beat me, that's for sure. And appreciate it, though.
Yeah, so absolutely. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate the heck out of you. So let's get going. I think the first thing to talk about with the Patriots and the Broncos game is the fact that the NFL moved the game from Sunday to Monday. And while a lot of that can be attributed to giving more time for negative tests to make sure that we don't have a Tennessee Titans situation on our hands, it's just another thing in the long line of uncontrollable things that seem to be stacking up against the Broncos this season. And at this point, anybody can tell me differently. I've been busy today doing chores, still moving into this new house. But at this point, to my knowledge, we are unsure about Cam Newton.
Yeah, from my knowledge as well, we are still unsure about Cam Newton. When I was looking at the injury report, him and Newton and Gilmore are not on there. Obviously, they're on the CV list. So I'm not really quite sure how they're doing there. But I'm pretty sure at this point that it sounds like Gilmore is not going. That's what we can determine. But if Newton's in there, it completely changes the game and how you want to attack it. I mean, it really does.
Unbelievable. That is the biggest thing. Chad's a great guy because he lets me throw him under the bus here, and I can give him a hard time. It's not legitimately throwing him under the bus, but bothered me a little bit this week because we do a weekly article where we have to predict the scores. And I'm like, well, Cam Newton playing or not playing, like, is such a difference maker in the game that I put a score for each. And he said, nah, Nick, we need a score for just one. And I was like, well, how can you even know if Cam Newton's not playing? Because, I mean, Cam Newton, I don't think he's obviously not putting up those MVP numbers. Looked really good at the beginning of the year, but he's not like that 2015 MVP Cam Newton. But the difference between Cam Newton and Brian Hoyer / Jarrett Stidham, Grand Canyon. That level of talent separation is incredible. So the Patriots get an extra day. It does. I think it's pretty likely that we are going to see Cam Newton. That's just my gut saying. I don't have any inside information on that one. This is Mile High Insiders, not Patriots Insiders. But it really does seem like Cam Newton will play. And if Cam Newton does play, I don't know how the Broncos win. I really don't. It's any given Sunday. Sunday. But Cam Newton's that chasm between them is incredible.
Yeah, when you see Newton out there, it's basically what McDaniels wanted out of Tebow, really. And so it's one of those things where I think if you have him in there, you got to go ahead and keep attacking him, get him on the ground, keep going after him in comparison to someone like Hoyer or Stidham. You just really have to attack him and make sure he feels those hits. Otherwise, you're going to have if you're blitzing, you're going to have some of those holes that were being attributed in the past for some of those quicker passes. So it'll be interesting to see there what we go with there, or what the Broncos go with there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a lot of people coming in wishing Stu a happy birthday. So you guys are great. We love you. So nice. Such a great community. It really is so cool. Well, we got Stephen Baumgartner coming in now too. Drew Lock is questionable for Sunday. Go Broncos. To my knowledge, Drew Lock will not be playing Sunday. That's what it seems like everyone's saying. It will be ripping for another week, which is an analogy I think it was Andrew Mason who gave, where you have a pitcher come up and nobody has tape on him, so they don't know what to expect, and he comes out and has a great game, and that second game he gets absolutely shellacked. I think that's probably the case for Rippon in this one, unfortunately. I mean, maybe he'll come out and play better. He's a smart kid. God, I'm pulling for him because everybody speaks so highly about him. But Bill Belichick getting in that week of tape to prepare for him after the, let's just call it, the struggles we saw down the stretch. There were great throws too, but there were some throws where you're pulling your hair out with Rippon. And I just, even with Gilmore possibly out, I'm scared for Rippon. Let's put it that way. I'm scared for Rippon.
And again, with Steven saying Drew Lock here is questionable, there is still some opportunity for him to play. I don't have it 100% as a no. Before today, I did. I was not expecting him to be put as questionable. And when I saw that, it really does lead you to wonder if this is a possibility. Do we get him out? Do the Broncos get him out there to get this win? Because it is so crucial at 1-3 to be 2-3, and then hopefully against Miami on that shorter week become 3-3 at 500. That changes everything. So again, the
whole season is different.
Yes,
at that point. I mean, it really is. You're talking about top 10 pick versus we're right back in the playoff hunt.
Right, exactly. Especially with those extra slot as well.
So, yep, and we got ZW Designs coming in as well with the super chat. Z-Dub, we love you, bud. Happy birthday, Stu. And just because with the orange and blue heart, which we always appreciate, everyone in here bleeds orange and blue, but that's, I guess, the source there is also that way. And we also got the boss chiming in. Happy birthday, Stu. So it's great. So I think the biggest thing to go from here is, let's say Locke is 75%. It's a throwing shoulder injury, that right shoulder. You probably have a better chance to win if Locke is in there, but there's probably also a chance that he could suffer some confidence issues. He could re-aggravate his injury. So put the little coach cap on there. And Chad, I want to hear from you as well. Are you playing Locke this week if he's 75%, 70 to 80%, or are you sitting him and getting him another week?
From my perspective, it'd be great to get him in and against Miami. Get him in there where he can be confident, feel comfortable, and just kind of let loose again, get back to his kind of gunslinging mentality. Even though this week is very important for the Broncos' mentality going for the future, I still think that you have to protect Locke for how long he's, we want him to be the future. And I don't want to break his confidence so early in his career just because he can't make some certain throws or he's being dinged in certain ways where Belichick will attack and find that weakness in that armor.
Yeah, and also this is I'm a realist when it comes to this lock conversation that seems to be coming down the tracks. We're going to let the season play itself out, but there's already some people that are screaming Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or Trey Lance. We're not even close to there yet. But the biggest thing is I want Locke to be given the best chance to succeed. And the Patriots Bill Belichick is one of the best defensive minds in the history of the game. Yep. I mean, just call it as it is. He can have subpar talent and still have a really good defense because how good he is in the scheme, talent-wise on the defense. But I'd be really concerned about Locke with that shoulder injury on top of the big struggles in the interior offensive line right now. They're blocking, as well as Noah Fant being out. So if the Broncos are out this week, I know you're a big Noah Fant guy. What is it called? Reborn again Noah Fant believer. Yes. But I think that Drew Lock, I want him to be given the best chance to succeed. I want to see that interior offensive line get another week of gelling, of getting that synergy. And I want to have hopefully Noah Fant out there as well when he's healthy. So while it would be great to see Drew Lock this week, it does not sound like he's 100% healthy. I'm a little bit more on the conservative side when it comes to that, especially the shoulder injury to the throwing shoulder. I'm rolling with Rip in another week.
Yeah, and especially, again, with that wide receiver core. And, again, who are you going to trust at tight end at this point without Fant? A lot of people have different opinions when it comes to who you can go with. I don't feel like Albert Okwuegbunam is an answer we can go with at this point. So for me, I would give that another week and let him have the full complementary of what we have left that's not injured, basically.
Everyone knock on wood for that one because we have a game to get through before we can even talk about that. We have, as Chad likes to say, Pabby coming in from the top rope. Happy birthday, Stu. Thanks, John, for joining Nick. Appreciate all MHH family. Go Broncos. Pabby, we appreciate the heck out of you. And James saying it off the top rope. Say hello to Iowa for me. Iowa in October is probably one of my favorite places in the world. And it's starting to get cloudy here. That's kind of the trade-off, I guess, for living near the mountains in the Northwest. But I am missing an Iowa October, so really enjoy that and live it up there. I'm sure the leaves are gorgeous right now.
Just notice real quick, the 72 for Garrett Bowles. That's what it's. How much has that switched from off season to now? People are now, talking about Bowles being the best lineman for us, and that's huge. I'm just taking a note of that. So I appreciate that, Pobby, and it really does mean a lot always.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back now to this Drew Lock conversation, Broncos right now are rostering 4 quarterbacks. When Lock is healthy, what happens? Are you because I guess there's a possibility that it'd still keep 4 quarterbacks, but no. So what is going to happen, in your opinion, once Lock is healthy and good to go? What's the roster math look like?
For me, it looks like Bortles is going to be the odd man out. I think that's pretty much what it is. For Driscoll, I'll admit I was one of the few people who actually thought he would be a good complement in terms of if he needed to step up in a game comparison to Locke. I was completely wrong there. I've seen what he's done. I wish you could say maybe he could go somewhere, let him go or something like that. But I feel like the Broncos are going to ride Driscoll. So what about yourself, though? How do you feel about that?
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
I think that they're probably going to move on from Driscoll. I do believe there is a chance that compensatory picks could come into play. I think there's a certain cutoff date where they could still move on from him and Nick Vannett and recoup a pick. Granted, other teams could do similar tactics, which would push the Broncos out of range, but at least you're giving yourself a chance there to coup a 6th or 7th round pick. So I think Driscoll is going to be the odd man out, and Elway deserves, I praise the guy when he deserves it, but he deserves criticism for the Driscoll signing as well. Just not a good one in hindsight, and Bortles was already out there. And you get better with memes with Bortles. So I think that's the way to go.
Exactly. And so I think if you can get that compensatory pick for Vannett and for Driscoll, I think it would make sense. Just because in comparison, I would be fine going with Beck, he's been playing well as a fullback / tight end. Maybe you just put him a little bit more in tight end this week or some of these other weeks with Fant out, just because, again, how do you trust any of those other tight ends at this point?
You probably can't. But, hopefully Jake Buck can stay healthy. We'll see more Beck and we'll get Fant back out there because Outside of Garrett Bowles, Noah Fant's probably been the biggest bright spot on the entire offense so far this season. So we got Grantster 88 coming in now. He's got a question for us. Do you think the Bears were bad last year because of Vic not being there? Because I'm confused on that part. And it's never, I always like to try to bring a little bit of nuance. It's never one thing. There's always multiple things that have a factor on that. The biggest thing about the Bears is their quarterback situation is bad. People want to criticize John Elway for not going after Cam Newton. What the hell were the Bears doing? Imagine how good this team would be if they had Cam Newton with that defense. But they switched defensive schemes last year, going from Vic Fangio to the more aggressive, blitzing Chuck Pagano defense. There's always going to be a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Transition period. And still, the Bears, although they are, 3-1 now? 4-1. It's a mirage. I'm sorry, that team, they might have a great defense. They look like they have a very good defense, but I still think it's a mirage because I do not trust their quarterback situation for crap. Like you go as far as your quarterback unless you have literally a once in a decade type of defense. So I don't think that's going to happen. Easier to bet against.
I just don't believe in Foles enough to be the guy to take you to the promised land. And even though there was some good stuff watching the other game, with especially, I'm not sure if you saw Khalil Mack kind of throw over Tristan Wirfs.
Tristan Wirfs threw him a couple times too.
Oh, I'm sure. But I'm just saying, there was some good. It was a good game, but I don't feel the Bears are for real. I think they're in a tough division as well, but they play the Vikings. Yeah,
the Packers look so good.
Yes, they do. A lot of tough competition there. Here, go ahead.
And we got PG, KJ, XG coming in now. I like Drew Lock, but I think he can be a great player, but he is soft. I don't think we are going to stay with him too much longer. The injuries back-to-back years are definitely a variable that you have to consider. But once Locke is healthy, he's going to get a chance this season, and it's going to be up to him to show enough to be the guy worth sticking with. And that's, again, Locke, the Broncos could lose games, but you have to be able to evaluate Locke, the individual players. It's a process over results evaluation. Same thing with a lot of these rookies. So we're going to find out when Locke comes back. I know this offensive line, especially the interior, is struggling. We'll see about Dotson at right tackle if he can play like he did last week, but he was okay last week, better than Wilkinson has been in the past game. And then getting Noah Fant back will be huge as well. But it's all wait and see. It's all wait and see. You believe me, guys. We will get into the draft talk and all that stuff once the Broncos are eliminated, if they're eliminated, and if Locke struggles. We're going to get around that a lot, but right now it's such a hypothetical that we don't want to spend too much time with that. But great point. The injuries for Locke, I don't want to call it soft. I wouldn't categorize it as that, but potentially injury prone, 2 injuries back-to-back seasons. It's worth keeping in the back of your mind when it comes to that point for evaluation.
Yeah, I don't know if I consider an injury to the thumb the way it happened in the preseason last year to be something that you have to worry about going and becoming habitual injury either. So for me, that was kind of a fluke, and they kept him out as long as they wanted to because they had faith in Flacco. So I don't really put that injury as a main concern, for at least from his rookie year. Yeah,
but now it's just back-to-back years, and on top of that, how much do we know about Locke? Really, we don't know. I mean, we know as much about him as, I guess, close to how much the Bengals know about Burrow, right? Like that's about the same sample size we have right now. And there's still a lot to be played. And at this point, Locke only has 2 years left of control. So it's just something we're going to have to talk about when the time comes. But luckily, Locke has a lot of say in how that plays out. So Kenneth Booker joking here. I think he's joking. Locke can cut the rest. We'll see. I love Kenneth, man. He's my dude. He's really funny. We got Chris McKay coming in. Busy at work, guys. Just wanted to show some love. How do you think the running back touches get split this week? Chris, believe it or not, this was going to be the topic of choice coming into the episode today, but the boss man said we needed to focus a little bit more specific on the Patriots. But John, I feel like I've been rambling a lot. I know that I'm the stalwart here, but I want to hear what you have to say here because I'll be honest with you. I could go many different ways to answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on also when Lindsay gets on the field Monday. How is that turf toe feeling? I'm not convinced, even though I was told 100%, I saw on a few things from Mike Kliss and things like that. I still believe, one day all of a sudden you do a wrong cut the wrong way, it's right back at the situation you were before. So this could, as you were saying, go a lot of different ways. I still think Gordon is the workhouse guy. I think you want him to take those hits, beat down the defense and have Lindsay come in near the fourth quarter and just break those, bigger runs off, those 15, 10-yard runs. So I see it being two-thirds Gordon, one-third Lindsay. That's how I see it at this point.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And I still don't believe in the process of paying a running back big money, but I will be the first to tell you Gordon has been really good so far this season, especially because people have been down on the Broncos offensive line the past few seasons, but they've actually been one of the better run blocking units in the NFL. Top 10, I think, each of the last 3 seasons, definitely the last 2 seasons. The Sean Kugler year, they started opening up holes like crazy on that offensive line. This year, not getting much push. The run blocking has been bad, and a lot of that has come back on Gordon making up for it and making things happen. I mean, that big run he had last week was he looked stopped and then kicked it out, and boom, there he is. Like that's an athlete. That's a special player making a play, and that's why you paid him. So I still don't love the process of paying a running back big money, but I think given the circumstance of a 2-year deal, his age, you're not really committed to him like a long time. I think it's going to be a good deal overall, and lean on him. You're paying on him, lean on him. And I don't know what that means for Lindsay. I want to see Lindsay be 100%. But there's still enough touches out there, especially if Locke's not healthy. Probably going to be a more ground-oriented team. It's just what it is. So I think you're probably going to see good touches for both of them. But overall, I mean, it'd be really hard to go away from Gordon. Gordon's just so much more versatile than Lindsay.
Yeah.
I know that people see Lindsay in the small back and they think immediately, this receiving guy, the one that can hit runs on the outside. But Lindsay does his best work in between the A-gaps. Mm-hmm. So I think Gordon, you get much more versatility. He's the guy to lean with. And if you can get 10 carries, not touches, from Lindsay, and he's getting 6 yards a pop, and one of those is big, hallelujah. You're on your way to really competing in this game, even though the chips are stacked against you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The whole plan along was to get these guys working together to complement each other, and I think that's how you're going to get it done. I don't really care who has the most yards or anything like that. I want to see the yards per carry from a total as a unit. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, nope. And Charlie Beagle coming in here, he's saying, didn't like Gordon at first, but he's won me over. He had that drop or that fumble week 1 that really sucked. But, I mean, he's bringing it in the pass game. He's helping a lot in pass protection as well. So, he's been probably their best player on offense so far other than Garrett Bowles. Noah Fant, I mean, he's bringing more explosiveness, but it's not the consistency of the running back position. So we got Steven Baumgartner coming in again. Do you guys think we will see Nigel Bradham on Monday or against the Dolphins? Man, I definitely think it is possible, but I don't think they're going to mess with it too much right now, given the work and the chemistry we've seen so far developed between Alexander Johnson, who is being sent on blitzes like crazy, and Josie Jewell. So, I mean, we might see him. There's obviously, we can get into this. I am very nervous about Josie Jewell in coverage against Bill Belichick, just because he's going to go to it time and time again, I think, this week. But, that's the Broncos might have to do a change up and get somebody else out there if that's a weakness this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a move more against the Dolphins. I think they wanted to get him acclimated a little bit more, just because that's what, how the Broncos seem to be operating. But with Barron going down again, it seems like he went to the IR, if I'm not mistaken, again.
Pec injury.
So now it's Pec. Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, at this point, you had to bring in someone. I think that was the good move, to bring in someone who is a coverage guy who just happened to have a bad deal with the Saints that the Saints had to get out of.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Big question or answer coming in here from James Campbell. James, we love you, bud. You're great. You're always helping us here in the chat. Since there are only 32 comp picks, both Driscoll and Vanette would need to be cut for the Broncos to be eligible in the comp pick formula, but they might be just outside, and I believe it'd be for Wolf. So, hey, I guess I remembered something right. I thought it was Driscoll and Vanette would need to be moved on from. And at this point, considering what those two have brought, once Fant's healthy, maybe you should consider it. I mean, I know it's probably just going to be a late pick, 5th, 6th, 7th, but that's still another lottery ticket. That's still another 4-year cost-controlled cheap contract, and those matter. I mean, just having more of those statistically, it's just another dice roll. So I'd rather get as many as I can.
So here we go. We got one from Doug here. Shelby will save the game in the fourth. Why won't the Broncos pay the man and keep him long term?
That's a great question. I think there is some. I've heard, and I cannot get this verified, so don't quote me on this, but there's been some friction between Shelby Harris and some coaching staff sometimes. He's a guy who will speak out, and when you talk about the culture issues, Shelby Harris is somebody who's going to provide a quote. And as a media person, I love that about Shelby, but some of these, especially old school coaches, rather have a rank and file player that will give no answers. So that's a thing. And also, Shelby Harris, he's playing great this year. I thought last year, those batted balls, I just didn't think his impact was as valuable, especially the batted ball stuff. That's if you're not winning as a pass rusher and getting your hands up, at least you're doing something, but it also means you're not winning as a pass rusher. So Also, I think he's going to be over 30 this year. So, for a defensive lineman, all that weight, you could see the drop-off happen quickly. So we'll see. It's definitely something where if he keeps playing like this, the Broncos would be dumb to at least not come to him, because you shouldn't just let talent walk for nothing. But I think that's probably a big thing. And also we saw this last year. He thought he was going to get a big deal and came back somewhat with his tail between his legs. So that's what the NFL thought about him. He's playing great this year. I hope he does get a big contract, because by all accounts, he seems like a pretty good dude. But I just think that's probably, there's a disconnect between how the league values him versus the Broncos fan base specifically. But he's playing good football this year. That's make no bones about it.
I agree. He's playing good football. I just don't see someone who I want to give a long-term deal to. You were talking about just let alone the age. Also, he seems hungry. He wants that contract. So is that going to be a driving force for him every year, or is he going to become complacent once he gets that contract? It's just one of those things where I don't see enough from Harris where I want to give him a long-term deal. When it came to like Mike Purcell, I could see that deal was, it was low enough. It was 3 years. You can get out of it as well from how it was structured. I just don't see Harris taking a team-friendly deal or something to stay, around in Denver, where Purcell grew up here in Highlands Ranch. He wants to probably stay in Denver, and he also feels like probably this is where he can make a huge impact as well. Just looking to the Pats game again, if he's able to go, that's going to make a huge difference for if Newton's playing and if whoever they use for their complements of running backs, because they have so many like J.J. Taylor and Harris. So. It's really interesting thinking about the defensive line and where do the Broncos go from here next year, just because of how many people are either injured, like Draymond Jones or something along those lines.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And Shelby's playing great. I would say that he's probably been the best player on the Broncos defensive front so far this season, availability. And also think somewhat Bradley Chubb being brought about slowly getting a decent amount of attention. And that's something I'm really excited about too. We'll have to get back to the chat, but I'd like to circle around back to the defense here. I know we talked offense all season, but once all these injuries started mounting up, it's not as interesting anymore. But I want to talk a little bit of Bradley Chubb last week, having a great game, and how much of that was Bradley Chubb versus the issues that the Jets are having. Mm-hmm. And that's in all caps, issues. But WE coming in here. Let me click that real quick. I'm very nervous. Rip will get exposed by Belichick. I think your nerves are correctly placed. He didn't play as well as people think. Could have had 3 NTs, and Judy touchdown was picked 9 out of 10 times. Heck, credit Judy for making a play. That's the first round pick, being a playmaker, but that was not a good throw. And it helps the passer rating for Rippin a lot, but that was a bad throw. It was late. It did not have enough mustard on it. Your playmaker went up and made a play. Hats off to Rippin for trusting his playmaker. Sometimes guys will just eat that. If you have a guy, though, like let's say Judy, Sutton also is another one who would have been like that. But Judy, sometimes you just got to toss it up. It's one of those cliches where, like, even if he's covered, he's open. Just get your playmaker the ball. Go make some things happen. And if it's a pick, it's essentially a long punt there. So I don't mind that much. But I definitely agree with your first point. Rippin, smart as a whip, extremely smart, extremely hard worker. People talk about him like he's their brother. From what I've seen from the team, they love him. But he's a guy who's probably more likely to be a long-term coach than a long-term quarterback. But, this week will be really, this is his chance. If he wants to make some money in the NFL playing, if he can go out and have an okay game against Bill Belichick when there are people doubting him, I'm doubting him. I would love to be shut up. That would be incredible. So, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen.
So what do you want to see from him in terms of ripping? Do you want to see some more long balls? I didn't see the long ball. I wasn't quite a fan of his. I just think short intermediate routes where he can get the ball out of his hands quickly is the way to go if he wants to see success. And just making sure, again, a clean pocket for him will make a huge difference, especially with his awareness. I feel like he can climb the pocket and maybe to get those intermediate routes and hopefully gets those additional first downs a little bit more.
I really like that he can get in and out of checks at the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be very important for him because right now teams have identified Lloyd Cushenberry as a major weakness on the offensive line, and they are sending twists, stunts, and A-gap blitzes. And the Broncos interior have been struggling with that tremendously, but having a quarterback that can potentially read that before the snap and get out of a bad situation into a potentially good one, getting rid of the ball quickly, that's what I want to see. I also don't want to see him staring guys down and throwing, the Jeopardy theme song playing as the ball gets to the hash mark because he does not have the arm strength to get out there. And those are just pick sixes waiting to happen with or without Gilmore. So I really just want to see him be smart, protect the football, take chances when they're warranted, but don't put the defense and the offense also in a bad situation by being careless with the football. Just don't be anybody but Brett Rippon. Go out there and be the best Brett Rippon you can. Yeah,
and live another possession. There should, I expect Sam Martin to get his work in, and hopefully, there's no issues with special teams. But otherwise, you just got to take what you can get. I don't feel like the Patriots are going to be a high scoring game, depending again who plays. But it's hard. It's one of those things where I have trouble, thinking that he can do it again. For me personally, it just reminds me a little bit too much of Allen last year.
Yeah, I think Allen that's a pretty good comp. I think Rippon is better with the pre-snap reads. Yeah, yep, exact. But specifically for pre-snap reads. So that'll be the biggest thing. And switching it back to the defense, somebody had a comment earlier about the secondary. What do you make of the secondary, the cornerback specifically? What are the Broncos going to do this week, in your opinion? If somebody had the question in here, please get back to me. But what is the formula for the Broncos this week at cornerback? And then the big elephant in the room, what's the Broncos formula at cornerback once Boye is back?
I think, again, you're going to see a lot of Michael O. I think you have to lean on him. He's just been good. But, again, I've seen good things out of for that one, I really would like to see someone like Bryce Callahan step up. I think he's had some full participation. I know he had some wrist injuries, but if Callahan can get going, I feel good against the Patriots wide receivers just because N'Keal Harry doesn't scare me. I don't think of any Patriots wide receivers that really scare me other than a scheme being out-schemed. That's a big thing for me is there going to be a receiver to challenge those Broncos corners who are weaker as well? So it's a little bit of both weaknesses kind of match up there.
Yeah, and I mean, they still have Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers. So there are some names there, probably nothing too crazy, but they definitely have some guys that they could go to. N'Keal Harry, I'm really excited to see Michael Ojemudia versus N'Keal Harry this week. I think that's probably the main matchup you're going to see for N'Keal Harry. And N'Keal Harry, not a great separator, but very physical, can do some yak stuff. And Michael Ojemudia, there's been some plays where he's been up and down for sure, but he's playing about as well as for a third-round rookie corner that I can remember in years. I mean, I don't think that's hyperbole. Somebody call me out there, but a rookie cornerback to come in, especially later end of the third round, and playing as well as Michael Ojemudia is so far, despite the lack of coverage from the linebacker position the Broncos currently have. I mean, I'm impressed. I think Michael Ojemudia is here to stay. Bosby flashed a lot in the small sample size. He definitely should get a go this week. And I think you're underselling Callahan a little bit. Okay. I definitely was wait and see for him this year, but he's played really, really freaking well. So once Boye comes back, I think you probably send Bosby to the bench because Callahan's the best in the slot out of all of them. Ojemudia, I think he brings more tackling, which you need for the integrity of this defense. It's just really important for how Fangio runs the defense. And also, you're going to live and breathe with, I think, that third-round rookie with how well he's playing right now. Also bigger sample size. So that's probably what you do, but you need to find ways to get Boye in there too if he's playing really well. So it will be really interesting to see how they play. But cornerback was a position I was concerned about coming into this year because it was massive question marks. But so far, and I even said if Boye gets hurt, I think Boye could be the Juwan James this year because the injuries he's had, the age, et cetera. I didn't trust him to play super long, and he didn't play that long. No. But I know, but the depth behind him. I mean, Callahan answering questions, playing great. Michael Ojemudia, I watched him at Iowa. I got my Iowa cup right here right now. I did not expect this. I really did not expect him to play this well. And then Bosby we had hope about, but then the Broncos cut him and brought him back. So like, who knows? But they were playing well above my expectations, and that's credit to Donatel and Fangio. They're doing a great job, but I've been really, really impressed.
Yeah, I've been impressed there too. And just quick question for you also: how are you feeling about the outside linebacker position with Atachu also being out this coming game? Who's going to step up, be that third guy?
That's a great question. I think honestly, you probably are going to see more of that pressure being generated via scheme and via Alexander Johnson's being sent on blitzes. So as far as the edge rushers, you're probably going to lean pretty heavily on the starters. You're definitely going to miss Atachu, but you're probably going to see way more Reed and Chubb getting snaps. Maybe you'll see some Tusk out there, but he needs a year in the fermentation chamber. He needs a year to really add strength. And maybe you also see Cello. I can never remember the name. Yeah. But I think that it's one where you're going to have to rely on the coverage and the scheme, and that probably means a lot of Alexander Johnson because, I mean, he 6'5", 250 pounds. Like that's essentially an edge rusher coming up the A-gap. And also it means that you're not leaving him in space and coverage, which is
a weakness.
Ideal. Yeah, they'll call it as it is. And they've also sent Jules in some blitzes as well. And Jewel is very smart and can pick those gaps pretty quickly. And say what you will about Jewel. I mean, I know he's not super fast. He's not very long. Not the best athlete, but he is quick. He had an incredible 3-cone, I remember, at the combine, and he is smart. So, they're out there doing what they can. It's still an area where you could be picked on a bit, but that's a concern.
Definitely. Let's get a question in here real quick.
We see a lot of Boise State talk going on in here. Idaho, beautiful country. Somebody tell me what the name of that. When I was driving from Iowa to Seattle this past month, we passed a lake in northern Idaho that had like a French name that was absolutely gorgeous. Like we were driving on the interstate, and then all of a sudden, boom, this huge lake and like mountains surrounding. So somebody tell me where that is because I want to come. And we got James Campbell coming in. This is a really good comment here and something I want to get to as well. Patriots, we kind of poo-pooed their wide receiver position. Obviously, they took N'Keal Harry. Say what you will about that. Looking back, the Patriots have a really hard time with offensive skill positions in the first round. It seems like that's one area Bill Belichick can never get right. Yeah. But the running back position, they do have a plethora of weapons. I wouldn't say it's as good as Gordon plus Lindsay, but they do have, for starters, they have Rex Burkhead, who's playing good football. They have James White still. They got J.J. Taylor. And Damian Harris looked really good last week as well. I actually picked him up in my fantasy league. Not going to bring as much in the pass game, but I really like Damian Harris at Alabama. I wanted to draft him in the 4th round just because he didn't have too many carries, and you could definitely get essentially what people wanted Royce Freeman to be out of him. And that's what he looks like. So yeah. I think that's the big one that I'm interested in. The running backs versus the Broncos linebackers. That's a concern. And if I'm playing daily fantasy football, if you can pick the right Patriots running back, you're probably going to have a good week.
I agree there. It's just they use so much committee, it feels like to me. I mean, when you were talking about Harris last week, he only had a few carries, but he made the most of them because they had the other running backs with different skill sets. So again, with the Patriots, if it comes down to fantasy football, you're kind of in a crapshoot. Good luck. But otherwise, as a team, they're going to produce. And that's where, again, Purcell, if he can come out and be healthy, because he's still on the injury list, if he can come out and be healthy, that'll make a huge impact for the Broncos.
Yeah, honestly, the running game is definitely something the Patriots will lean on, especially if they don't have Cam Newton out there. But with Cam Newton, too, it's just the running backs in the pass game that concern me the most. Because if you're sending Jewell, you're sending Johnson, one of those guys is going to be tasked in coverage with the running back. Just that's how the math plays out. And all those guys, and the Patriots did it for years. They obviously don't have Tom Brady anymore who can really pick on those weaknesses. But still, Bill Belichick's here. It's still Josh McDaniels. They're going to try to isolate a linebacker against a running back, and they're going to go to it over and over again.
Yeah, and again, I think this is going to come down to a scheme versus let's do a one-on-one matchup. I just don't think you can cover those running backs like that. So they're going to be key to the receiving game. If anything, they are receivers as well, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, Rex Burkhead, sorry, kicked the dog toy. I didn't even know it was underneath me. But yeah, no, Rex Burkhead is the guy to watch for there. And of course, James White, both the Big Ten backs, of course. Gotta shout out to the Big Ten, even though I don't really like either of those schools. I'd say they're probably the two biggest Big Ten rivals for my Iowa Hawkeyes. So looking at the injury report here, we got to definitely get to it. Yeah. But we have Jeremiah Tauchu. He is listed out, which is a big bummer. Noah Fant, we knew he would not play, but he's also listed as out. Get well soon, Fant, because you were looking like the best receiving weapon for the Broncos with Sutton out. KJ Hamler also out, which is a major bummer. Also, Cecil Lamey, I like your work, but calling KJ Hamler the John Ross this week in Twitter, that really that grinded my gears. Don't do that. Let's not put that on the rookie already. Yeah. Mike Purcell is questionable. Devontae Harris was listed with a hamstring, but he's a full participant, so he'll be out there. Granted, he's the fourth string cornerback now, soon to be the fifth string cornerback probably. So we'll see on that one. Drew Lock, questionable. Maybe we'll see him. I mean, they did get that extra day. Maybe they'll see him, but I don't think so. Bryce Callahan has a wrist injury, but he's a full participant. Trey Marshall, wrist full. Phillip Lindsay, foot injury, full. Levante Bellamy out, so we would have probably seen him anyway.
He's on IR.
They put him on IR officially? Okay, he's listed out here. Okay, yeah. So good to know. And Joseph Jones, questionable. For the Patriots, Adam Butler, the defensive lineman, he's questionable. Julian Edelman, knee injury, is questionable. Shaq Mason, who's a really talented guard for the Patriots, he's listed as questionable. Isaiah Wynn, former first-round pick, listed as questionable. And Devin McCourtney, listed as questionable. And also, we don't know about Cam Newton yet, which who the hell knows. And then also Patriots defensive lineman Bill Murray also had COVID. Oh, I said the magic word. I'm sorry, guys. But I just wanted to throw out Bill Murray because that makes me laugh every time.
Yeah. And again, I never know with the Patriots what they exactly mean by their game status. They play that game all the time. But if they have those certain players missing, obviously you don't see Newton or Gilmore on that list just because they're on a CV list. They have their own injuries to do. And here's a good point also by Stephen Baumgartner I just wanted to bring up about Jake Rogers being promoted. I thought that was an interesting move. I'm not sure quite, the exact reasoning behind it, but it was something that caught my attention. Maybe, if Dotson doesn't perform, they want to take a look at Rodgers.
That's definitely something that could happen. It could also be if Dotson gets hurt, you got to go to that. So one thing I do want to talk about with the Patriots that obviously Dante Scarnecchia was one of the best offensive line coaches ever. It's not a part of the team anymore. But the Patriots offense overall, the offensive line specifically, has been performing extremely well. Michael Onwenu from Michigan is looking like the second best pick the Patriots have ever made from Michigan in the 6th round behind Tom Brady, but he's playing incredible football. Joe Thuney's still there playing good. They got Jermaine Illuminor, who's playing left tackle. Gosh, Lord knows where he came from, but he's playing really good football. Isaiah Wynn also, and then Shaq Mason. So it's going to be interesting there. But really, this is a team without Tom Brady there. It's a defensive team. So, I mean, the guys that I'm looking out for, Dietrich Weiss, guy from Kansas. Shout out to Kansas out there. J.C. Jackson's been playing good football. Devin McCourtney, Chase Winovich, Lawrence Guy. So this is a good team. Maybe not the most talent of any Patriots team that we've ever seen, but still a lot of disciplined football players that can do many different things. And if they can beat you, grind out football game any week. That's the Bill Belichick way. They can win ugly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. So I really don't have much to add, but let's bring in Duke Boynton in here.
The Night King, apparently, smoking a cigarette there. What's your preference? Denver playing a team at full strength or Denver playing a depleted team? I'd prefer Denver metal being tested all the time. Denver's metal being tested all the time. Honestly, I don't really have a preference because I can't control it. So it's one of those things where it's beyond me. So I don't really have too much of an opinion. I want them to play the team in front of them and to stay healthy and have a good game and hopefully come out with a W. But as far as playing a full strength team or a depleted team, I think if this was like a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning game, I'd want the Broncos to beat a full strength Patriots because I wouldn't want to hear the gosh darn pampered, annoying ass Boston fans complaining, well, it's not fair. Our third string left tackle had a hangnail, so it doesn't count. Tom Brady forever. No, that's like, I don't need to deal with that. But like, if it's a Brian Hoyer Brett Rippon game, it doesn't bother me either way.
Yeah, I don't think, both teams have their own depletion. This is how football works. If this was week 1, I would say I'd want both teams to go all at it, have all their players going. But, it's one of those things where this is football. Players get hurt. It's part of the game. This year it's even more part of the game and more prevalent. So, it is what it is. But if a full Denver Broncos team on 100%, going and feeling good, that'd be real interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a Broncos team at 100%, they haven't had the injuries they had. You're talking about Courtland Sutton out there, Drew Lock, Von Miller, Jarrell Casey, AJ Boye. I think we're talking about a Broncos team that is at worst 2-2 right now. Mm-hmm. I think they probably win that Steelers game because the Steelers did not play that well. And even potentially 3-1. I mean, you're talking about Von Miller being out there week 1. Who knows what happens? Them's not the breaks this year. A lot of injuries, so you just got to deal with how it is. Charlie Beagle, you're right, Charlie. With as depleted as the Broncos are, they need any break they can get, and that's for sure as well. And also, it's kind of annoying. The NFL pushing the game back. I understand that it's to make sure that no more positive tests come about, so that way you're more likely to have the game and reduce potential outbreaks from the Patriots to the Broncos. But like the fact that means that it's more likely that Cam Newton is going to play, given how drastically different that team is with Cam versus without Cam. It just seems like a go figure for the Broncos this year.
So I've got a question here from ZW Designs, rocking his own shirt that he made. That's always a classic. That's doing really well. In his opinion, Newton shouldn't be able to play since it won't be the 10th day. Is that correct?
I think it will be the 10th day.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more because I'm a little ignorant here. Can you explain a little bit more?
I think the NFL has a rule where it's 10 days after a positive COVID test. Don't quote me on that one. That's just the top of my head. I've not read the NFL rules as far as it pertains to the pandemic, but I think that is the specifics. That said, I think it will be exactly 10 days from Sunday to Monday.
Gotcha. Okay, so I think that does give him the ability to play, which is just. It's unfortunate. It didn't feel like a necessary move, but it is what it is, as you said. Just giving a shout out to a few people here.
So beyond this game, let's say the Broncos end up winning this football game. What's the perspective like going forward? Moving on to the Dolphins then. Are we actually talking about a team that could sneak into the playoffs despite the injuries? Or are we talking about a team that, let's say, especially with the Broncos record versus the Patriots, for some reason, they just do decent against them. Yeah. Is that just kind of a mirage? I guess it obviously comes back to how the game actually plays out rather than just the result. We're talking process over results. But coming back to that, like we said it earlier, like what a turnaround this season could be. If you could be riding a 2-game win streak, you're right back in this.
Oh, yeah, and the additional wild card spot, all these different aspects can get the Broncos right back into things, get them feeling good. The Broncos aren't going to get healthier for some of their positions, but other guys will be coming off the short-term IR, and health is just going to increase. And I think when you're looking at the Miami game, even though it's a short week, even though it's, again, on the East Coast, and I believe it's an early East Coast game, I still think that should be a game the Broncos take full advantage of, come out firing, and for me, the Broncos on defense just have to keep attacking. That's really what when I saw that last week, it just felt better. Even though if you whiff like A.J. Johnson did, you're going to have that huge hole. Still, I'd like to see going forward the Broncos just become a little bit more aggressive, and I think if that happens, the Miami game after the Patriots, I think we're back in that.
Yeah, nope, you're absolutely correct there. And also, yeah, the Miami game. Yep, the chat's always on it, guys. That's great.
They are.
So that's great. We got a clips coming in. Nick, John, I'm feeling fine. Let's pull it up. You guys are getting too fast. Nick and John, you got it.
Yeah.
Nick and John, I'm feeling fine. Eating swine, state of mind. I appreciate the flow there. John, are you allowed to eat swine?
I mean, I don't keep kosher.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. Gosh, now I'm hungry for some bacon. And we got, speaking of swine, I got some bacon emoji coming in there. It'll be an interesting game this week. Brett Rippon obviously is going to be one to count on, or to hope on, to watch and to see how they play out. I do think that you're going to see the Broncos use much more of the running game. It's going to be a lot of running backs in this game, and hopefully some Jerry Jeudy as well, given that the other young playmakers aren't out there. And somebody we got to talk about that if Luke was here, he'd be on me. He'd brought it up about 10 times by now, but I was definitely a Tim Patrick detractor coming into the season. Granted, everything is broke Tim Patrick's way as far as the guys around him getting hurt. Because let's say if it was Jeudy who got injured, you'd probably see way more Deshaun Hamilton just because of the roles. But with Sutton out, Tim Patrick has a golden opportunity, and he played really freaking well last week. And also something that you don't see in the box score, but great blocker as well. Give him a shout out to that. Great blocker as well. So Tim Patrick, another guy, if Stephon Gilmore cannot go, I'm looking for Tim Patrick to have a decent game. Obviously, JC Jackson, I believe is the name. He was a really talented cornerback that was kicked out of Florida, that went to Maryland, that the Patriots took, had some issues in his background, but is playing like a first-round pick, which some people thought his talent level was that. I think he went in the end of the third round. But JC Jackson's one to watch out for as well. But without Stephon Gilmore, even with Brett Rippon out there, the Broncos have a chance to eat a little bit at the wide receiver position.
I've completely slipped my mind for some reason about Patrick. I was a detractor at first too, thinking maybe we should trade him early on, just because of that 1-year deal. But he has just gone. He woke up yesterday or last week, and he just went off. So it was a great game to see him play, compete. But again, I completely eat crow on that, saying that I thought Fred Brown should have taken his place over him. I wanted special teams. I wanted someone for special teams, but that's a great player to go to. Avoid Deshaun Hamilton, by the way, though. Just a real. Yeah,
and also look at the chat coming in now. Bacon. Let's get some Go Bacon in the chat, guys. We're all about that life. I'm hungry for some right now. I actually might go cook some up. But guys, we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate you. We got Chad, saying that time to roll. So we love y'all. Gotta obviously get the outro going here. But the guys, this is Mile High Insiders, brought to you by Sports Illustrated. I am Nick Kendell today. Thank you so much, John, for joining us. We got all the bacons in the chat. We appreciate that a lot. Maybe that can be our new thing. Maybe we just come on here and eat a plate of bacon. Find me on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Find John on Twitter also at John K MHH. Obviously, you can see it in the picture there. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Go to YouTube and subscribe, and share. Leave a like reaction on Facebook, and doing all that can really help us continue to bring you these episodes. Follow our main accounts on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI Football Pod. John, what do you got going the rest of the night?
Rest of the night, I'm going to relax, get ready for football tomorrow, basically, and just have a good night. What about yourself?
I am trying to plan a good hike. I'm going to be up at 3 a.m. to get out there and to drive out there. It's about a 3-hour drive up to the North Cascades. It's supposed to snow a little bit, but I don't even care. I'm just going to get outside and feel alive, because that's the best feeling in the world, getting out there and getting a hike in. And God, I've lived in Iowa all these years. I've always been jealous of you Colorado folks. I am never living somewhere without mountains again. I refuse. Not happening. The wife doesn't know that yet, but I refuse. So, but anyway, guys, love the heck out of you. We'll see you next week. Obviously, we got an episode of the Huddle Up podcast coming at you tomorrow. We love y'all. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy your football tomorrow. Stay safe. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.